Good evening, and thanks for joining us here on KDKA TV. I'm Nicholas Marshall.
And I'm Shelby. Tonight we have breaking news. The Constitutional Convention was concluded, and we here at KDKA TV have the latest news. Our reporter Austin is on scene with famous George Washington. Austin?
I'm here with Mr. George Washington. Mr. Washington, can you tell us more about the events that transpired during the conference?
Of course I can. There were two major plans discussed in the convention that were later compromised into the best possible plan. The Virginia Plan, presented on May 29th by Edmund Randolph, called for a new government with three separate branches, a legislative, executive, and judicial. The legislature would be a bicameral, meaning that it would be made up of two separate branches. In the lower house, the House of Representatives, representation would be based on population, and the House of Senate, which would be based on equal representation for each of the states. Next up, we have Congress would then choose a national executive and a national judiciary. These two branches would form a council of revision that could veto acts passed by Congress. Congress would have exclusive power to admit new states to the Union. The Virginia Plan would create a constitution by thoroughly revising the Articles.
That sounds very interesting, but that is only one plan. What was the other plan?
The other plan was the New Jersey Plan, proposed by William Patterson on June 15th, and it offered several revisions to the Articles, but not nearly as thorough as the revisions of the Virginia Plan. This plan left Congress unicameral, which the states, each of the states being equally represented. The plan would add closely limited powers to tax and regulate trade between the states. There would also be a federal executive of more than one person. The federal judiciary would be composed of a supreme tribunal appointed by the executive.
Those are two very conflicting views. How did they finally compromise?
Well, as you can see, the compromise was actually suggested by the Connecticut delegation, so we called it the Connecticut Compromise, naturally. Congress will be comprised of two houses. In the smaller Senate, the states will be represented equally. In the House of Representation, it will be based on population. This satisfies both the smaller and larger states. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'd like to go home. After being locked in a room full of sweaty, angry men for months, I'd like to see my wife.
Of course, Mr. Washington. Thank you for your time. Now back to you at the studio.
We've got breaking news, folks.
That's right, Nicholas. It looks like they're at it again.
What exactly are they at, Shelby?
They're supposedly remaking the Constitution.
Oh yeah, I remember hearing something about that. There were like 55 of them in the Philadelphia State House. Man, that's one warm place, eh, Shelby?
Yeah, well, what I don't get is why they're remaking it.
I think, if I remember correctly, they're remaking it because the first Constitution, the Articles of Confederation, introduced many flaws, and so they're trying to amend those. And they even put in a system where, in the future Constitution, they can amend rules that they think are flawed.
That sounds pretty smart to me.
Yeah. I also heard something about wheat prices and future congressional pay. That sounds ridiculous. Almost as ridiculous as the current weather. Gunner?
This summer here in Pennsylvania has been nothing but a scorcher. It has been incredibly hot and humid, causing even more respect for those who participated in the convention. With their gentlemen's coats, vests, and the sealed doors and windows, those inside must have longed for a cool breeze. The smell of sweaty men must have been overpowering. The heat has drawn flies and mosquitoes, making it difficult for anyone to get some peace. That does it here for the weather report. Back to you. As you all know, I'm a full-blown Federalist. I knew from the start that the Articles would not last. They have too many flaws to fit our hard-won country. I don't understand why those anti-Federalists grew so attached to them. All they wanted was to add a Bill of Rights. The newly made Constitution makes more sense. I am pro-ratification. The other thing I don't understand is three-fifths compromise. How is it that a person, even a slave, can be three-fifths of a person? If it weren't for us, they would be free in their home country. The southern states have to pay for the slaves to be able to count them as three-fifths. I think how we treat our slaves is despicable. That's my opinion. Now back to you in the studio.
The Articles of Confederation is great, having unified states that can work together, but each state has its own power as well. It's not perfect, though. There's no power of taxation, and no way for them to enforce their laws either. And even if they have a dispute between states, there's no national court to settle those.
Really? That's bad.
Yeah, and that's not all. A firm league of friendship? That's not unified. Are you kidding me? What state's going to want to be part of that? And also, if it isn't united, states can't be vote, or they can't vote on population, because that vote only counts once. The Congress can't levy taxes or duties that can't regulate commerce. Also, fixing any kind of error in the Constitution requires consent from all the states. And at least 9/13ths are needed to pass laws.
Wow, that seems like it needs fixed.
Yep, that's why they call it the convention.
Thank you for the update. Now we go to Zoey for what's hot and what's not.
Many people are receiving letters from their friends to send them babies. Now, for those of you who have been isolated for a while, they're not asking for real living babies. They are asking for fashion dolls dressed in the latest trends. On to a topic that is more relatable to those who, like me, are not yet married. I'm talking about the latest dating trends. What do single men and women do on dates? They find privacy by sharing a bed and blanket, fully clothed with a wooden board between them. This is called bundling, a proper and practical way to spend time together, seeing as there is no heat in the winter. That's what's hot and not in today's society. Now back to the studio.
Thank you, Zoe. I hope this broadcast has been informational to all of you at home.
Thank you all for watching KDKA TV, and we hope you will join us next time. Good night.